We are headed to an eerie body vault that is over 100 years old. I found it while looking through this area. We're almost there, it's right around the corner. But it's wild to think that how in the late 1800s and early 1900s they used to take the bodies using a horse-drawn carriage down this very path. It was a dirt road at the time, and I can picture a small man in a tall black hat heading down there with his horses slowly trudging along as their hoofs clack against the ground, an ominous carriage dragging along behind them, dark and windowless. In 1918, during the influenza pandemic, over 1/3 of the Earth's 1.5 billion population would end up getting it, and one of the hardest hit places was right here in Atlanta, so hundreds had to be taken and stored in this vault over that period. We are almost there. This beautiful young lady is one of those unfortunate souls who had to be stored here all those years ago. She has been quietly resting for over 100 years, and you can imagine what she looks like now, 6 feet below me. But thankfully her soul is no longer there. The very lifelike statue of her is what I find to be the most striking. It almost feels as if she is sitting right in front of me, and I can just reach out and shake her hand. Sadly though, a similar event is how she passed. It was the beginning of the pandemic, and nobody really understood how bad it was going to be yet.
For so long I've waited, fearful and frustrated, feeling love was overdue.
Life almost seemed normal, despite the unpleasant surprises waiting just ahead. As you can imagine, information was passed along way slower, so unaware of the risk, she went out dancing with a group of friends. Miss Ryan, as was the formal way to address her, was a member of one of the wealthiest families in America. She spent her carefree days enjoying life and having fun. Despite being so well off, she never stopped dreaming of one day owning her own dance studio.
Feeling old, so what's new? Every day brings a different shade of blue. Nothing can change your point of view when love has gone.
Sadly though, that would never come to fruition. It is believed that on that night is when she contracted influenza from one of her friends. At first it came on slowly, but as the time passed, her condition worsened. Through it all, her fiancé never left her side. He had already been exposed to it, and for him, there were never any symptoms. It felt so unfair. He wished it was him instead. Sadly though, there was nothing that could be done, and she slipped away only weeks later. Today, doctors would have almost certainly been able to save her. But by whatever stroke of misfortune, it did not happen that way. Her fiancé stayed in bed for days and was even more distraught when he found out he'd have to wait until winter was over to put her down below and say goodbye. During that time, he came up with a beautiful idea for how to keep her memory alive even into future generations. Mr. Ryan hired one of the best sculptors in the country to create a beautiful cross headstone that had her carved into it, an extraordinarily expensive request that he described as being worth more than money ever could be. Sadly though, nobody can defeat Father Time. Mr. Ryan passed a few decades later. His final request was to be reunited with her. I'm standing over where the story ended for both of them, but through us right now it continues to live on. This is what they wanted, and now they are together again. At last, we are at the Westview Receiving Vault. This is the place where they used to take the bodies before they buried them in the wintertime. A strange feeling to be at a place where so many waited ever so patiently to be taken to their eternal resting places. The reason why they needed a vault is because the dirt roads of the time were hard to traverse in the wintertime. Often when it snowed, you could not even see where they were, much less actually take someone and go put them in the ground. Inside that big door frame is a large area. Not particularly nice, but it worked. You can also see two other openings that were used for sliding them in and out. The inside stretches back 25 feet and is 30 feet wide with an 18-foot ceiling. The regular capacity is 36 people, but at times it had to hold a good bit more. There are also a number of other mysteries in its walls, but they sealed it up in 1945, and since then, nobody has been inside, at least until now. I was not expecting it at all, but I actually found a new way to get inside that I'm not sure if anyone else knows about while I was searching the area. I'm going to post that video of what it looks like as unlisted to avoid getting in trouble with the law. But let me tell you what, 100% worth it. So if you want to see what that looks like, just subscribe with the notifications on. After watching that video, you can unsubscribe, but I do want to be clear, you do actually have to be subscribed with the notifications on in order to see it. Because of it being an unlisted video, only the people with the link who have notifications on will see it. That's just for my legal protection. I want to be safe, but I'm excited to show you guys that video.